All right, hey guys, what's up? It's Dean. Welcome to Manflow Yoga. So this is a kind of an unplanned live session, but since this is the topic, and I know everyone's got questions about fitness and how to, you're thinking about how are you going to keep doing your workouts, how can you continue to be consistent. I wanted to get on and just give you some information about how you can continue to be fit with your workouts. And I know what you're thinking. If you know anything about me, yes, I have a website that has online workouts and programs, but that's not what this is going to be about. Yes, part of it will be why you should be doing, why the convenience of doing workouts online, obviously that's there, and why it can be helpful with, regardless of your fitness goals or what you're currently doing, why doing these workouts can be helpful. But I also want to talk about some other things. So we're going to cover we're going to talk about gyms, what can you do instead of going to the gym. We'll talk about weight training. We'll talk about alternatives to that. We'll talk about yoga studios. Obviously, you don't want to go into, we want to minimize our exposure to group classes at the moment. Yeah, and if you're scared, so someone just said, I'm scared to go to the gym. And yeah, that makes sense. So I'm going to talk about some other things that you can do. So some cheap equipment that I think everyone should have at home so they can work out without going to the gym. This is something that I do. I have a lot of cheap and not so cheap equipment that you might want to invest in because it's a great idea to have this equipment, and in the long term it can actually save you a lot of money. So first off, we'll talk about gyms. So gyms, people like gyms. Number one reason why, because it has all of the equipment that we need to do resistance training. So resistance training, weightlifting, there's a reason why people like doing it. It's because it's the best way to build muscle. And I'm saying that as someone who has a yoga fitness company. Weightlifting is the best way, resistance training is the best way to build muscle. But most people who weight train most people who weight train definitely have a lot of mobility work that they need to be doing that could actually make them better at weight training, that can get them better results in the gym, to help them build more muscle, to help them with their mobility for smoother lifts, for less pain or less discomfort while they're exercising. So there's a huge reason why people who go to the gym a lot, and I know you're not gonna be able to do your workouts there, could benefit from doing a mobility focused program, helping to increase your muscle activation. Most people don't have great muscle activation. Doing Manflow Yoga is awesome for that. Mobility. Most people have a lack of mobility. We have tight hamstrings, tight hip flexors, limited thoracic mobility. So taking some time to focus on a mobility focused program is actually going to help you get stronger. It will help to decrease pain when you're exercising, and it'll actually make you less sore the next day. So I actually have a lot of people in our members area who I specifically recommend, hey, I think you should take a break from weightlifting for a while because you've been doing strength training for 5 years now and you haven't focused on your mobility that much. So I think you should take a break, let your muscles deload, and actually spend some time on mobility to help you out with that, because it's going to help you. Again, if you can take some time and focus on your mobility, it's actually going to make you better at weight training. Personally, I took a break from weight training for about 3 to 5 years. I was kind of consistent or inconsistent, but if you can take a break from weight training and focus on your mobility, you can really address all of those muscular imbalances and those weaknesses that can make weight training more difficult. Most people do have imbalances, they have a lack of mobility, and that makes it challenging to weightlift effectively. So anyways, my point is, if you lift a lot and you're really concerned about not being able to use equipment at the gym, don't be, because most people can benefit from taking a break from weight training and really focusing on mobility. And of course, I have online programs for that through my website, manflowyoga.com. I highly recommend doing that. I have a program called the Strength Foundations course, which is fantastic for that. We've seen so many great reviews and testimonials from that program. So check out the Strength Foundations course. I know I have some workouts on my YouTube channel that can give you an idea what those programs look like, and some full-length workouts from that program as well for free on YouTube. By the way, when I'm going through any of this, if you have questions, just put them in the comments section and I'll reply to them when I get a chance. If you have questions about specific equipment, I'll also put that I'll put that in the replies. I don't want to junk up the description, so I'm gonna put it in the replies instead. So the next thing, yoga studios. Obviously, we don't want to get into a yoga studio where lots of people are crammed into a close room, breathing on each other and flicking sweat around. Not a good idea right now. So what we can do instead, and even if you're not concerned about, even if you're not concerned about your health during the virus, we do have to consider that there are people who are more vulnerable. We have to think about the older populations. We have to think about people who have respiratory issues. And for the sake of those people, it's important that we try to minimize our contact with groups, with large, with crowds and that kind of thing. So even if it's not for you, don't be selfish. Do it for other people. So yoga studios. Obviously, we don't want to get into a yoga studio. There's a lot of exposure to other germs. So you can do online yoga instead. Obviously, I'm biased. I think that I have the most comprehensive structured workout programs for yoga on the internet. We have hundreds of reviews to back that up and tons of success stories as well. You can do that at manflowyoga.com. One of the benefits of training online is that you actually get to choose the workouts that you get to do. If you go to a yoga studio, it's kind of just like, what does the yoga instructor feel like doing that day? Or maybe it's a set workout like Bikram. But the benefit of doing an online program is that usually there's a lot of variety. With Manflow Yoga, we have over 340 workouts. There's over 35 workout programs to choose from. So you can choose what you want to focus on. So if you want to work on, tight hamstrings, or maybe you want to work on thoracic mobility, maybe you want to work on your core strength, maybe you want to work on endurance or building strength for crow pose. You can do all of that, and you actually get to choose the workout that you get to do and choose when and where you do it. So doing yoga online is a great idea because you actually get to choose the workouts that you do. And we also don't have to worry about drive time. So you actually save a ton of time when you're following along to an online workout. We don't have to worry about what we wear. We don't have to worry about driving there. It saves a ton of time. And as far as Manful Yoga goes, most of our workouts are kind of in the 30-minute range. That's kind of our sweet spot, 25 to 35 and 40 minutes. And we find that that's enough time to get an awesome workout. So that is what we do. If you're concerned about whether or not you're doing proper technique, most people actually find that when they're following along to one of my workouts, they get way more instruction than they do at a yoga studio. So that's something that a lot of people are concerned about initially. They're like, oh, well, how do I know if I'm going to be doing the proper technique? Here's the thing. At a yoga studio, most teachers don't have the time to walk around and look at every person's technique and make little adjustments to help with technique. Mostly, yoga instructors are focused on providing a good experience. They want you to sweat. They want you to feel good at the end of it. They want you to feel like you've done something so that you come back the next day. On the other hand, I want you to do all of that, but I also want you to make sure that you're using proper technique so that you're staying safe and getting the most effective workout that you can. So you'll actually get a ton more instruction following along to my online workouts than you will going to a local yoga studio. And that's what I hear from my customers. There are two things that I hear from my customers. Number one, the technique focus. People love that I actually focus on technique, tell you what muscles you should be engaging, what you should be feeling, how to modify the postures if you can't do them. And the second part is that they love that it's non-spiritual. It's workouts that focus on the fitness. There's no spiritual aspects, so when you're here, you know that you're getting a workout. There's nothing else. And those are the two things that people really talk about. Why taking a break from weight training is a great idea. So this is something that I really like talking about with our new members who have come over from weight training. If you've been doing weight training in a while and you don't have a lot of mobility, there's a really good chance, if not a 100% chance, that your body has started hurting. That exercises that used to feel fine now hurt. They cause joint pain. You've got knee pain, you've got back pain, you've got shoulder pain from your workouts. And that really comes down to a few things. All of which can be solved with the right exercises. So it's a lack of mobility because we don't have the necessary mobility in muscles to do the exercises properly. That lack of mobility leads to muscular imbalances. So we've got some muscles that are really strong and others that are totally underdeveloped, and that leads us to a higher risk of injury. Also, there's a lack of flexibility, so we just don't have, the muscles can't stretch to the point that they need to in order to keep your joints feeling healthy. And then also there's no restorative aspect of fitness. So you go to the gym, you lift weights, but you don't take time to stretch and recover. And so if you've been doing weight training or you're doing, gym workouts for years and years and years, you can actually hugely benefit from taking a few weeks off or even a month or 2 months off and focusing on your mobility, focusing on recovery, focusing on stretching. And I actually have a program for this called the Burnout Recovery Program in the members area. And I made that when I realized we had so many people coming over to Manful Yoga from people who were using these, mostly weight training programs, and their bodies were just so broken down that I said, okay, well, we need to get you just to doing some stretching. We need you to work on your mobility, and we need you to work on those muscle imbalances that cause that pain. So taking some time off, especially if you've been lifting for a long time, is actually a fantastic idea. That's actually going to help you lift more and lift with more fluidity or more smoothly when you get back into lifting. If you can focus on your mobility, if you can focus on your muscle activation, the workouts are going to be more efficient. You're going to get a better workout in less time. You'll also recover more quickly. So there's just tons of things that happen when you start working on your mobility and you start doing the stuff that we have in the Manful Yoga programs that are going to translate into huge gains in your other workouts. So if you're concerned about being able to stay consistent with your weight training, if you think that you're going to lose your gains, the bottom line is that most of us who are weight training consistently will actually benefit from taking a few weeks off and really focusing on those aspects of fitness which we don't get while weight training. So that's something that I wanted to say as well. And then lastly, because I don't want to make this too long, no one's going to want to watch like a 40-minute video. So I want to talk about some cheap equipment that I think everyone should have at home. And this is something that I practice, something that I personally do, because I know that I'm not always going to be able to work out in my office. I'll talk about the equipment that I have in my office in a second, because I think that it's really easy to create your own gym and relatively inexpensive. But I do have some equipment here at my home that I have to make sure that if I don't have access to all my equipment, that I can at least do something. So the first thing that you're going to want to have is a set of resistance bands. So there's a few different kinds that you can get. These resistance bands are made by Fringe Sport, but you can really get any one. They're all very similar. Just, some quality is lacking in others. So I can assure you that Fringe Sport has some good ones. But resistance bands are great because they allow us, they kind of replace weights in a way. They're not a perfect substitute, but they will allow you to choose how much resistance you want to use for a particular exercise. They allow you to put greater stress on your muscles than you would with just your body weight. And most importantly, they allow you to do exercises that you can't do with your body weight alone. So pulling exercises are incredibly important for your shoulders. Most people tend to do way too much pushing exercise, especially if you're only doing a yoga program. Yoga is all pushing. There is no pulling exercises in yoga. So that leads to a pretty big imbalance that can cause shoulder pain. So having resistance bands is great. Even if you only use them for doing pulling exercises, for doing a variety of rowing exercises, then it's beneficial. So really quick, with your resistance bands, you can do a horizontal row like this. So you're just going to shut it in the door or tie it around a post or something. Do your horizontal rows. You can also tie it to something overhead, and you can do vertical rows, so we can do pull downs, and those are going to help keep your shoulders healthy. If you want to use these to add a bit more resistance to push-ups, you can do that. There's tons of ways to use resistance bands. There are tons of YouTube channels that will help you with this. I have some rudimentary ones on my YouTube channel and in my members area, but resistance bands are helpful, and I would encourage you to go investigate the internet and find some different ways that you can use them. But that's something that's really inexpensive. I think resistance bands are like 20 or 30 bucks, and something that I will even travel with just because it weighs like a pound, and it helps you keep your shoulders healthy. So resistance bands, number one. The other thing that I highly recommend you have is a pull-up bar that fits over a door frame. So this pull-ups are one of the best exercises that you can do for your upper body. Again, most of us do too much pushing and not enough pulling. So hanging on a pull-up bar, even if it's just hanging, and then actually doing some pull-ups. And you can do pull-ups, you can do chin-ups, you can play around with it, do different variations. But doing that is really going to help your shoulder strength, keeping your back healthy, and even helping building a lot of muscle in your upper body. So I would highly recommend you get a pull-up bar that fits over a door frame. If you don't like the way it looks, take it down when you're not using it and put it in a closet. But having a pull-up bar is a relatively inexpensive piece of equipment that should last you for decades. I have one that I really like. If you want to know which one I use, just leave a comment somewhere here and I will respond to it with the link. But I got mine off of Amazon. I've used a few other ones. This one holds up really well. I also put adhesive pads on the door frame to minimize damage to the door frame itself. So that's something that you also might want to do. Some other things that you might want to have, I actually have a tractor tire in my backyard that I use. I found it on Craigslist. I went and picked it up. I paid 50 bucks, and now I have a tractor tire in my backyard for flipping tires. So if you have a backyard, if you have a garage, investing in a used tractor tire is actually something that I'd recommend. It makes working out pretty fun. It's a great workout for your full body. And yeah, it's just something that I'd highly recommend. So you've got resistance bands, you've got your pull-up bar. I'd also recommend you get a kettlebell. So kettlebells are not terribly expensive. You can probably find a good one between 40 and 100 bucks, depending on your resistance. But kettlebells are a great way to work out your core, your hips. You can do a ton of exercises with kettlebells, and they'll last you forever. They're cast iron things. So kettlebells are a great piece of exercise and equipment that I would keep at home. I actually have a bunch right behind me. So if I move, you'll see all my kettlebells. Although they're black, you can't see them, but kettlebells. So I have about 3, and I use those on a regular basis. All right, now let's get into the not so cheap equipment, but exercise equipment that I would highly recommend you invest in. So I was looking for a gym. I think a few months ago I was considering whether or not to join a gym, and no, this is a few years ago actually. And I did the math, and let's say you're paying for a gym membership at 50 or 60 bucks a month. So that's $600 a year, $1,200 for 2 years, $1,800, and so on. I also thought about, well, do I actually have the time to go to a gym, or am I going to want to drive to a gym? Do I want to go through that process of changing at the gym, of having to, fight people for equipment? And I decided that no, I'm gonna make this about convenience. So I actually went on Craigslist. This is apparently a common theme of this broadcast. But I went on Craigslist and I bought used weights. I found a very inexpensive squat rack on, I think, Academy Sports. If you don't live in Texas, you might not know what Academy Sports is, but it's basically a Dick's Sporting Goods. So I found a really cheap squat rack / pull-up bar for $80. I found used weights. I found the used Olympic bar, and I bought all of it. And it cost me probably $250, maybe $300 for that. Which means that I've already paid for that in 6 months of not having to have a gym membership. So you have an Olympic bar, you've got the weights, you've got a squat rack. The only other thing that I invested in was a power block set. So a power block dumbbell set. Those are really helpful because they don't take up a ton of space, and you can get anywhere from, I think, as low as 5 pounds, and it goes up to, I think, maybe 90 pounds for dumbbells. So that should fit most people. Um, but having dumbbells is also is something great because you can't always use an Olympic bar for everything. Anyways, so having dumbbells, having an Olympic bar, the weights, having a squat rack, that actually satisfies most of my lifting needs. I don't need to have many other pieces of equipment. Sure, it could be helpful if I wanted to target specific muscles, but really that's all I need. I can do my deadlifting, I can do my squats, I can do overhead press, I can do curls, I can do walking lunges, and that's really most of what I do. I actually have a video that I made a couple weeks ago that talks about my workout program in more depth. If you want to check it out, it's on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/manflowyoga, but you can check that out. But anyways, the point is that that equipment, when I add it all up, probably comes out to, let's see here, maybe $700, maybe $800. So yeah, $800 up front might be a lot of money. Maybe it's not, depending on your current situation. But if I compare that to paying for a gym membership for 2 years, I've actually already broken even and then some, right? So it's actually, if you can do that up front, it's actually going to save you money in the long run. Again, you don't really need to purchase that much other equipment. The only other piece of equipment that I have, other than those kettlebells that I mentioned, got the resistance bands, and then I also bought a hex bar. So for a hex bar deadlift, so but that was like, I don't know how much it was, but less than $100. So there's not that much equipment there, and again, I haven't had to pay for a gym membership. I'm able to go straight into my workout without driving there. It's just in my office. I recognize you might not have the space for it, but if you do, if you can create a little area where you can put down some exercise mat, have a squat rack, have an Olympic bar, and maybe put it away in a closet afterwards, or use your garage, whatever your setup is. But I'd highly recommend that, not just from the cost standpoint, but also from just a oops, this one started. Oop, there we go. Not just from a cost standpoint, but also from the convenience standpoint, not having to travel there, being able to use it, whenever you want, not having to wait in line. And then of course that comes back to this, right? In the age of the coronavirus, no one wants to share anything. No one wants to go to group training atmospheres. So being able to have your own equipment, not have to worry about that, is a huge plus, because I can use my weights whenever I want. I don't have to worry about spreading germs there because I'm the only person using it, and it really does not take up that much space. So, and then obviously, other stuff, make sure that you're doing yoga, online yoga workouts and programs through manflowyoga.com. Our focus is on, again, 2 things people say about us the most. Number 1, the technique focus, learning proper muscle activation, learning how to build strength in yoga, how to do the exercises correctly and safely, how to modify if you're not flexible. And then number 2, there's no spirituality. It's completely focused on the workout. So, if spirituality is your thing, that's fine. I'm not bashing it, but I am saying that there are a lot of people who don't want to do that, and I personally am not interested in that. So I provide workouts and programs that are completely focused on the fitness. I think yoga is a great workout, not so into the philosophy when I'm trying to work out. So that's that. And yeah, so if you want to learn more about Manflow Yoga and getting started with our online programs, manflowyoga.com/join. Check it out. And that's pretty much all I wanted to go through. So again, this video, we talked about gyms, we talked about weight training, some alternatives. We talked about yoga studios, how you can do yoga online instead. We talked about why taking a break from weightlifting is actually a great idea for most people. And then we talked about some cheap equipment that I think you should have at your home, just to make sure that you can work out even if you don't have access to your gym, or you don't have time to go to your regular workout class. So, and those are all things that I utilize. All of that equipment that I mentioned are things that I utilize on a weekly basis. So I hope you found this useful. Again, if you have questions, leave them in the comment section. I'll get back to them. And if you have any questions on equipment that I use, my go-to equipment for gym equipment would be Fringe Sport. They are a company based in Austin, Texas. I think they do free shipping on equipment. And yeah, I know it's just a super high quality, great company that makes good stuff. So check out Fringe Sport if you need anything in the gym department. And then for all of your online yoga needs, of course, manflowyoga.com. If you don't already know what my workouts are, go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/manflowyoga. Check out my workouts there. You'll see what's different with Manflow Yoga versus other traditional yoga, probably within the first 5 or 10 minutes. And hopefully you enjoy it. And then if you don't, cool, whatever. But hopefully you enjoy it. And if you want more of that, then go to my website, manflowyoga.com, and actually get started with the program. Join the thousands of people who are using these workouts and getting stronger on a daily basis. I think the most significant benefit is that people feel better. So they're not just building strength or mobility, but they're actually feeling better on a day-to-day basis. So they have fewer aches and pains, they have fewer restrictions, they're able to do what they physically want to do more confidently, and they feel stronger. So yeah, thanks for watching this. I hope this was enjoyable, hope this was useful. Be safe out there. Wash your hands thoroughly with soap and warm water. Try to minimize your exposure to groups, if not for the sake of yourself, then for the sake of people who are more vulnerable to the virus. And yeah, that's it. So guys, I'll see you later. If you haven't already subscribed, or you don't like this page already, make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube. And and if you like the video, hit the like button. That shit's helpful. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Ask me a question. I'll be happy to respond. And that's pretty much it. So we'll see you later. Thanks for watching again. Have a good weekend. By yourself, indoors.